Hello bookish friends and welcome to another episode of Books and Ballgowns. Today I am wearing one of my ho-ho-hoiest dresses to talk about ending the year as we started it, with dramatic dresses and dramatic book boyfriends. And look, I know it looks pretty benign from the front, but let me show you a bit more. Do we get the picture as to hoiness? I hope so. So today, bookish friends, I am going to be telling you all about the book boyfriends that I have discovered this year and why I love them so much. I am sorry if the sound quality isn't that great. My DJI mic decided to just go kaput right before I started filming this. And look, I didn't get all dressed up to go nowhere with the hair and the makeup and the dress, only to do it again tomorrow. I have dug deep into the depths of my dark black soul and bought another microphone because I'm so tired of the fucking shit that this microphone pulls. Let us spend some quality time together today talking about my favourite book boyfriends this year. Get your TBRs ready because I'm going to talk about so much angst, so much yearning, so much just men being fuckers, fictional men this time, and being brought to their knees by their heroines because it's pretty much my favourite trope. We're going to start off strong with a last minute but strong contender sneak entry into this list. Because about a week ago, I picked up and started reading Bewitched by Laura Thalassa. I don't know why I've not picked up this book before this. I know that I love her Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse series, but for some reason I thought that this series was a romantasy. It is very clearly a paranormal romance, arguably maybe even an urban fantasy, because it has, I think there's a fourth book coming and it all follows the same couple, which isn't, traditional paranormal romance. But I picked this book up and I flew through it. And this book in many ways was quite the anomaly for me because it's single POV, the heroine's POV, and generally I much prefer dual POV. It's not a deal breaker for me, but that's just my preference, and I often don't pick up books that have single POV because of that. Also, it's very slow burny, and more slow burny than I am generally used to because I usually read paranormal romance where, the couple's story concludes in that book and we move on to a new one in the next book. And so there is not a great deal of romance on the page with this book. In fact, a lot of it is just hanging out and chilling with the heroine. And you know what? It worked for me. This book follows a witch called Celine. She has this kind of magical issue where every time she uses her power, it eats away at her memories. And to get into this coven that she wants to get into, she has to go and have a magical adventure, basically. So she goes to the Galapagos Islands, I think it is, and accidentally, kind of on purpose, wakes up a 2,000-year-old evil sorcerer. He's very hot, so it's okay. And his name is Memnon. And he is basically like, hello, wife who betrayed me. I'm big mad about this, but also big sad. And look, this is for sure morally grey. This is for sure morality chain. Part of being a sorcerer in this world is that the more powerful you get, the more it eats away at your conscience. And dude don't have much of a conscience left because he's really powerful and he does some bad shit, and he does some shit to the heroine that I was like, you know what? I don't know if I can forgive him for this. Fortunately, book 2 was out immediately, so I just went straight into that. There is one particular scene that lives with me rent-free, which is there is a werewolf, because we have shifters in this book. And Selena's always had a crush on him, and they start getting it on. They start getting together, and they have this bond, she and Memnon, and he senses all of her sexy, horny feelings, and he's like, what's going on here? And he turns up and basically almost murders this werewolf sexy man she's getting it on with. And it's great. It's just great. I can't say how delighted I am to have finally read this book and found that I loved it so much. And I have read book 2. I've got book 3. I haven't got to that one yet. But truly, this was one of the highlights of my year. Talking about shifters and all manner of magical supernatural creatures, let's discuss Kresley Cole and the Immortals After Dark series. I have found so much joy in this series, and it has literally everything. It's got vampires, it's got werewolves, it's got Valkyries who are badass, it's got witches, it's got demons, it's got sorcery, it's got like judgy angel boys, which I kind of am here for. It's got berserkers. Honestly, any supernatural creature you can think of, this series has it. And I have found such joy in this series. This is book 1, so I'm showing it to you here. It's A Hunger Like No Other. I will say that this book, there are a couple of elements that maybe haven't aged super well because it is 2006. You can kind of understand why it happens, but there is a little bit of SA. you can kind of understand why it happens because of the circumstances. But if you can just read book one as kind of like a product of its time and kind of get past those points, it's such a phenomenal fucking series. It has one of the most unhinged openings to a book I've ever read. So the hero is a werewolf and he has been captured by vampires and tortured for like 400 years and no one knows where he is. And for the first time ever, he scents his fated mate above him. I think he's like underground in Paris. He scents his fated mate above him and he chews off his own leg to get to her. Now, this is where it gets a little bit because he chases her through like the streets of Paris and manages to kind of pin her down, and there is a little bit of essay there. You can kind of understand it in that he's completely frenzied. He's been tortured for 400 years. He doesn't know what the fuck is going on. He just bit off his own leg. There is a little bit elsewhere in the book as well. Particularly there was a shower scene that made me a bit uncomfortable. But again, having read now 9 books in this series, I can say that Kresley Cole is a bad bitch who does not flinch and is not scared to deal with really problematic shit. But she doesn't do essay stuff like this again. I think it was just kind of a product of its time of this book. It didn't age super, super well. Or maybe it was an intentional thing by her. I will say in this series, one of the things she does is she gets fuckers. She tries to redeem them. This is quite often a fucker redeemer series in many books. Highlights in this series that I've read this year. Firstly, Kiss of a Demon King. What the fuck was this book? If I had to summarize this in one line, it would be the heroine kidnaps and spitefully tortures the hero, and then the hero breaks free and spitefully tortures the heroine. I will say I love the heroine Sabine so much. I love her so much. Rydstrom, the hero, I never get behind. I think he's a fucker and he never redeems himself. That being said, I loved watching him suffer. Rydstrom is a demon. Sabine is a badass sorcery woman. She is almost kind of like channeling like dominatrix vibes. She is someone that is quite morally grey in that sense, and I love a morally grey heroine. This is a half demon, half vampire who is kind of considered an abomination, and it's his fated witch mate. And yeah, I mean, I can't say much about this book because it is kind of the introduction to a new arc that's kind of a big arc, and I don't want to spoil anything, but all I can say is this was such a beautiful, stunning book. The angst, the kind of yearning, the complexities with the characters, the way that it does character development and the way that it moves the story along and introduces this absolutely fucking insane and compelling arc. 10 out of 10 chef's kiss. I have nothing to say about this book other than praise. Also just want to shout out Dark Needs at Night's Edge. Conrad is a sweet baby angel and I will take no criticism from him. It's about an insane vampire whose fated mate is a ghost ballerina lady. 10 out of 10. I loved it. And yes, they do get to spy. She's not incorporeal for the entire book, so don't you worry. I'm gonna move on to aliens next, but before I do that, let's go with one more kind of shifter, more traditional paranormal romance and talk about the Nalini Singh Psy-Changeling series. So this is not the first book in the series. It's not even my favourite book in the series, although this was a stunning book. But this is one of the ones that I have because most of them are on KU, so I've read a lot of them on KU. A Slave to Sensation is the first one. Shifters, Psy, humans. The Psy are a race of people who have big mind-brain powers, can do big mind-brain stuff like telekinesis, but not just that, they can do many things. And because rates of insanity and kind of violent crime and things like that was prolific amongst the Psy, like 100 years ago or something like that, they decided that they were going to implement the silence protocol, which basically means that they are conditioned or brainwashed or tortured into no longer feeling. And if they feel, it could kill them. Cue the first book, a shifter who is all about feeling and emotions and touching and being in connection with that kind of thing, and a Psy. Delightful, delicious, loved it. Aliens, we have Wrangled by the Alien Rancher. I found Ursa Dax this year and I'm so happy that I did. This is a light, fluffy kind of alien series, and it's about a group of aliens that were put onto like a quote-unquote prison planet. So they committed heinous crimes, quote-unquote. You find out that there's a lot of corruption going on with this. But they committed these terrible crimes when they were like children, and so they can't be sentenced to the mines where they'll go and like just work until they die. So they're instead sentenced to kind of like a midpoint where they're sentenced to another planet that's hard living, and they are kind of ranchers, cowboys, that kind of thing. And they end up you know, being sentenced there and they have to live their life there. And the government kind of starts a new program for them where they ask for wives for these men, and human wives at that. And so the women go voluntarily. Often they are, you know, chasing something because they're volunteering to go to this random planet that they don't realize is a prison planet because the government wasn't quite so forthcoming with that information. And they go and marry these men. And I just found this series really delightful. I will say Ursa Dax, she's a lovely, stunning writer. Her books are very funny. It's quite a fluffy series, so even though it does have some darker themes, they're not dealt with in any kind of detail, in my opinion. It's kind of skimmed over a little bit. It's not got the depth that maybe some of you may want. So if you're wanting that kind of alien romance that deals with darker themes and really goes into depth and is just stunningly written, always got to recommend the Clickanian series, which is up here. Choosing Theo is the first one. But I didn't read those books this year. I read them last year, so I can't talk about them. But Wrangled by the Alien Rancher is fun, it's fluffy, it's light. And if you want those more in-depth themes, you may end up feeling like it didn't give you quite enough. But if you're in the mood for a light, fluffy, fun read, and they're on KU, I really recommend this series because it was just fun. Another one kind of sneaking its way in here, because I only read this about 2 weeks ago, and it's Starcrossed. This is a new author to me, and I will say, she is a stunning writer. She uses many words I've not seen before, and that was annoying because I had to keep going and Googling the words, because if I encounter a word I don't know, that pisses me off, so I have to understand what the word is. That being said, it's not like ooh, I'm an author, look at how many big words I know. She writes masterfully, and she writes a beautiful book. Now, there are many tropes in this book that I didn't love, that aren't really for me, and yet she still managed to write a book that was like a 4.25 out of 5, and I'm still planning on buying the next book and reading it. And I think that's probably a testament to her writing, because I genuinely cannot fault it. As many of these alien books are, it features the hero who is an alien man, and the heroine who is kind of a very badass, strong-willed woman, and she's trafficked by aliens, basically. And she manages to escape, and her hero saves her to an extent. I mean, she kind of saves herself in many ways, but also he also saves her. Now, what's really interesting about this book is the hero's race are kind of forbidden from talking or being with humans, talking to or being with humans, because they are a race whose saliva is an aphrodisiac, and they are a race of all men, so they have to copulate with or procreate with other races. And humans, there's something about kind of human pheromones and just humans generally that is addictive to them. So their government kind of outlawed being with humans. Humans aren't even supposed to know that they exist. And her very presence is like a drug to him. And she also feels a pull, to be clear. It's not one-sided, but her very presence is like a drug to him. And the first full spy scene is really powerful in that, you know, prior to the build up to this, I was a bit like, okay, is it really that big of a deal? I don't really fully understand why they can't be together and why it's a quote-unquote forbidden romance. Like, let's, come on now. But the author really pulls it out of the bag with the spy scene, because it starts off pretty normal, like as you'd expect, like intense kind of obsession, possession, longing, mutual, obviously. Just this, I cannot get enough of you, I'm feral for you. And then it just goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. And they cannot stop, because his bodily fluids are aphrodisiac. So every time she's coming into contact with anything, it's ratcheting her need higher. And she, by virtue of being a human, just speaks to him inherently, and whatever's going on with him, and he just cannot stop. And basically it gets to the point where she almost dies because of how long they just keep going. And it's a really powerful scene. It's not comedic or anything. It's really effective in just demonstrating, like, there is actually a problem with this. This is why these two races aren't together. I'm fascinated by this book. I'm fascinated by this series. It's beautifully written, and I highly recommend. Gotta mention a couple of historical romances. So A Rogue Like No Other. Sarah MacLean is a wonderful author. This book is a fucker redeemer book. The hero is a fucker, utter fucker. Does she fully redeem him? In my personal humble opinion, no. Do I ever think that he is fully redeemed by the end of this book? No, I do not, but I enjoyed the fuck out of the ride. The angst, the longing that I'm a poor broken boy who does fuckery things because I'm a poor broken boy, and how upset and miserable I'm making myself by just being a fucker was exquisite. The heroine is a beautiful, lovely woman, and as much as I wish she had a bit more bite to her and she kind of pushed back and made the hero suffer more, that just wasn't this character, and it didn't feel like a oversight of the author. It just felt like this is the character that I'm writing, this is who this character is. So I have to mention this because I just think it's a stunning book. Also, I've got to mention, I don't have the book on me because I borrowed it from a friend, Lady Sophia's Lover. This book has the sternest of brunch daddies. It's a beautiful book. It's about a hero who's a magistrate and he is looking for an assistant, and a woman comes and says, I will be your assistant. And at first he's like, a harumph, a woman. But she very quickly convinces him, actually, I can do anything a man can do, so shut the fuck up and hire me. And he does. The heroine actually wants to get revenge on the hero for something she believes that he did. And it's a stunning romance. It's a beautiful book. It's twisty-turny in very romance ways, so you can probably guess some of the twisty turnies. But it was a delightfully written book, and I just cannot with the sternest of brunch daddies I've ever read. If you want a hero that is incredibly, insanely protective over his heroine, Lady Sophia's Lover is one for you. Okay, I've got two more kind of books for you. One is a book, one is a series, but I want to sneak in, I'm going to be very cheeky, I want to sneak in a horror book, Cold Eternity, S.A. Barnes. Look, S.A. Barnes has this way of writing these teeny tiny romance subplots that as romance readers speak to you immediately. So after I read this book, I did a bit of research on her, and apparently she's written under multiple names, and she's written paranormal romances before, which makes so much sense. Because as a romance reader, this book, there's also Dead Silence as well, which was her kind of first book under the name of S.A. Barnes, have these romance subplots that just feel like they hit something deep inside for someone who reads romance. So you may or may not like horror, I don't know. I will say these are kind of sensitive, heroine-focused horrors written by a woman. And I will say that they are stunning. Dead Silence is one of my favourite books I've ever read, and Cold Eternity is very much up there as well. But there's a little AI kind of romance subplot in this one. In Dead Silence there's a real person subplot, but this one has a little AI romance subplot. And fuck it, it's my channel, so I can do what I want. I'm mentioning this book because as much as it's not a romance, the romance in it, as tiny as it was, as minor as it was, because it is a horror, really hit, and I was really rooting for them. Now I'm gonna say it's a horror. It's not a guaranteed happy ending, bear that in mind. But I also want to say S.A. Barnes is, under the title S.A. Barnes, releasing her first paranormal romance. I think it's in 2026, it's pretty soon. It's called Death's Daughter, I think. Google S.A. Barnes, you'll find it. I'm gonna read the fuck out of that, and I have no doubt that it's gonna be incredible because her horrors are incredible. Truly, in the spirit of ending the year how I started it, this is the first book I read of 2025, and I was obsessed with Becca Mack. Consider me. Becca Mack is a phenomenal author, and I'm very grateful to have found her books. I did speak about this back at the beginning of 2025, but I really feel that Becca Mack is an author that is doing something different in the contemporary romance game. I won't lie to you, my fellow romance girlies, I will always have a special place in my heart for contemporary romance, but it doesn't call to me the way it did before. I feel like there is a lot of very mid and even just fucking bad contemporary romance being churned out, and much of it honestly isn't good. It's easy to write. Anyone can sit down and write a contemporary romance, which is why I think paranormal romance often tends to be pretty solid, because at least an element of thought goes into it. So I've moved away from reading contemporary romance this year, but Consider Me and the Playing for Keeps series by Becca Mack is an exception to this. This is a sports romance about ice hockey players. I feel like it's very different to any other contemporary romance on the market at the minute. Becca Mack is not doing the formulaic, we meet, we have a good time, the middle is great, and then, oh no, we break up. Oh, third act breakup. Oh, we get back together, live happily ever after. There are constant peaks and valleys in this entire book, highs and lows. It's very realistic of like how a real relationship might be. and she writes just a stunning and compelling book. So that's it. Those are my favourite book boyfriends of 2025. I am excited for what 2026 is going to bring. Now, next week I am planning on posting something, but do you know what? Carly got a little sauced on the cheap Prosec, and I don't remember what I'm doing next week, but it's going to be a thing, and it's going to be to do with books. So you should subscribe to me for that. Horror books, romance books, my own kind of author journey that I'm embarking on. Subscribe, find out more about it. Like this video, comment on this video. I would love to grow this channel, but I hope that you've all had a wonderful Christmas, and I hope you have a fantastic New Year's Eve. And I will see you in 2026 with a video that's going to be average at the minimum. So a high bar right there.